Everybody, and welcome to our fireside chat on Wild Earth Safari. Myself and Tara. Hello.
Hello.
How was your drive?
It was a bit slow. There
Oh,
wasn't too much out and about this afternoon.
okay.
It was nice.
So just the weather.
Yeah, I think so,
That's
hey.
a serious drop in pressure. It must be a low pressure system. It's cooled down. You're sitting in a jacket.
I went very cold towards the end of drive. As soon as
Well,
that sun dipped,
I did that as well
Mm.
yesterday.
I forgot to
And
take my jacket.
I,
So I'm sitting there doing
yeah,
it.
been there, done that one. Been there, done that one. Welcome to our Wild Earth camp this evening, and welcome to our fireside chat. We're going to be talking about a few things, some of the things that we've seen over the last week or two, since we haven't had a fireside chat for a while. It's been very, very wet, and it's been so wet that I've been battling for, I guess it's going on 2.5, nearly 3 hours to get a fire going, using all sorts of propellants, and fire starters, and petrol, and grasses, and old brooms, and this wood just won't burn. I've
You
got
didn't
a
use a
little.
feather duster, did you?
No, I didn't use the feather duster. That would smell too much.
Yeah.
Yes, our wet wood. So, anyways, we've had a very, very interesting time the last few weeks. The last couple of weeks, we went for such a dry spell with all of that rain that we had. It was wet every day. It was cold and grey, and I'm starting to sound like I'm a poet. Um, but it just wasn't really conducive to game viewing. When we had all of that wet consistently over time, and the animals tend to stick to thicker bush, they don't tend to move around as much, and we were all getting a little bit worried about what we were going to do about content and about bringing you some of the sights and sounds and wonders of Africa. And we didn't have to worry too much because you came to the rescue.
Me?
Yes, you found
What did I do?
you found the lions, and they made that
Oh
kill.
yes. Well, to be fair, they were like literally just on our doorstep. I think they knew. They
They
were
knew
just
that we
onto
were
something.
wigging out for
Yeah,
something, for
yeah.
content.
I literally drove out, and as we just go outside, there was a lion sitting on the termite mound. And at 5:30 in the morning, you're kind of still a little bit. Well, it was actually about 5:15. You're still a little bit. What's going on in the world? And I'm
Not
going,
sure if you
Herman,
dreamland or not.
there's a lion. Is that a lion? And he's going, yeah, I think it is a lion. So we're shouting down to Craig, Craig, go live now, we've got a lion. We were that excited, so yeah, it was so much fun to find them like
I
that.
know that excitement because you want to go live as soon as possible, just in case it's a mirage and it disappears, and you want other people to see it, just to make
Yeah,
sure that it's there and it's on film and everybody gets to see it. I've had that a few times, but I've also had those moments, go live, and then the leopard disappears or something.
exactly. Remember the serval?
Oh
The
yeah, oh
serval was
gosh,
the
that
best,
serval,
yeah.
the one and only time where we've had a chance to see a serval, and
And we were
it
both on
disappeared.
drive,
We
eh?
were, and guess who was on camera?
And I'm going, Patrick, go live! And I must have shouted maybe just a little bit too loud.
Maybe.
Serval went, gone.
Well, I think it was just our presence. It's a very shy cat, the
Yeah,
serval,
exactly.
and it was just that moment of. I'm hoping that when they start cutting the grass on quarantine
Mm.
again, that we might see something, because I'm quite sure that a serval has returned. Haven't you noticed that you don't see the guinea fowl anymore?
I saw one on drive and I was thinking, why are you on your own?
Do you know what I saw? I saw a couple of days ago. I found them way up near Impala Plains, running through the long grasses with lilies.
Ah, okay.
And because I think because they got lilies, they're not out in the open. They're in the
Mm.
long grasses, and they're keeping them hidden
Mm.
and growing them up for the eagles and
I
the
think so.
serval and the leopard and everybody else who wants to catch a guinea fowl.
Mhm.
But yes, the guinea fowl have babies, and one of the most remarkable things about guinea fowl babies is even though they're tiny like this, they can still fly, almost like the francolins. They're one of these birds that are precocious.
Mm.
A term that we use for birds and can run around after birth like a chicken or a duck instead of the
Artificial.
altricial. Yes, thank you. The artificial birds like the sparrows and the doves that are born in a nest in a tree, and they've got that protection, so they don't need to run around. They're still pink and blind and featherless. But I think that's where our guinea fowl are at the moment. We haven't heard them and seen them much. I did hear them one day on the western edge of quarantine.
Oh,
I was
okay.
convinced there was a leopard there that one day because they were going crazy.
Actually, I do remember seeing them about a week ago, and we had hyenas. They were calling. So I left one hyena on the western side of quarantine and went round and there was probably only about 4 or 5 of them. They were all chattering away, and I'm going, oh, there must be something there, and there was about 3 hyena, I think, there.
Yeah.
So that was the last time I actually saw a whole group of them.
So they're conspicuous by their absence. I think there's an apt term for that. But getting back to the lion, I think we've had probably one of the best lion sightings we've had since I've been here. I mean, I had lion mating when I first arrived. I think it was up on Buffelshoek, funnily enough. I was given permission to go up to Buffelshoek just after Wonky died. And we found a male, one of the Manuleti males, mating with a female up there. I don't know who it was. There was a time after that I saw them mating, I think these Kajimas, mating with Snaggletooth, and we don't know what happened to her and whatever happened to that mating, but it was pale in comparison to this sequence that we had, because we were so lucky to have the whole thing for 4 days, and I'm calculating it was about 4 days.
I think it was 4 days, I think you're right.
And some of the most incredible lion stuff that we've been able to capture here on Wild Earth.
I think so. I mean, I must admit, I really enjoyed just being able to go back and actually following the story with them.
Yes,
Really
that was the greatest part of it.
Definitely. I mean, we actually saw it on the first day that we found them.
Yeah.
The fact that the males were still doing the phlegm and grimace, testing the urine, and they weren't really getting that close. And it was only a couple of days later that they had the buffalo kill, and you saw them mating probably for the first
well, we
time.
heard them that night of the buffalo kill. Malusi and I went back there just after they made that kill, after Tara, and you all saw Tara. Tara. After you all saw with Tara when you managed to see that kill on live, and I went back there late that night and got stuck with them.
Yes, you did.
But I wasn't stuck like the wheels were spinning in mud or something. It was stuck like leaving the lights on for too long, watching the lions eating the buffalo and running the battery down. And this huge storm coming in. I don't know if any of you remember, but that was the night. We must have had probably a couple of inches of rain that fell. And Malusi and I, was full moon. Malusi and I were sitting with the lion, and I had this little old Sony camera that we used to use, that I've used for remarkable creatures before. And I still got to try and edit that and put it into a little sequence for you all. But I was filming them eating the leftovers of the buffalo kill. One of the really incredible things about that was one of the big males was feeding on the carcass, and one of those littlies, one of the cubs came along, and he didn't mind at all. And I've so often found this with male lion that sometimes they won't let any of the lionesses feed, or the older cubs, but they'll let the little ones come in, because I suppose they know it's going to nibble, they're not going to feed very much. And while that was happening, we could hear in the background, we could hear the mating noises going on. And that was a lot more intense to the mating that we saw later on. I think she's an older lioness, although I did manage to see her nose. It was a little bit pink.
Have a bit of pink.
So I'm putting her at about 5 or 6.
I think that's what I put her at. Yeah.
And I don't know, I think she's used to the process after a few days. So there wasn't that much growling and spitting and fighting and scratching after the deed, after copulation. But we're hoping that she conceived, and we're hoping that we're going to get another few littlies coming into the Kahuma Pride, and hopefully this is going to establish a bigger base of lion pride in this northern sector of the Sabi Sand. I mean, we need it. Excuse me, sorry, something in my eye. Sandy Patch Pride disappeared. The sticks have dispersed and split up, and I don't even know where they are nowadays. And the only lion pride that we have that are likely to maybe use this area are the Kajimas and the Kahumas. And I managed to create a new name for them called the Kajumas. Well, there's the Kahumas and the Kajimas. Yeah, it's like Brangelina. Well, we've got the Kahumas and we've got the Kajimas. And so it just makes sense to call them the Kajumas.
Very nice. But I think the sticks have been down in Malamara from what I've understood.
I believe so. I believe young male has found himself a buffalo kill.
Oh, okay, I haven't heard that.
I don't know, I think it was a wounded buff or something, but he was, I can't quite remember the feeds that we got from Janet and Pam.
I must admit I haven't read this week's.
Yeah, I haven't read this week's, but yeah, that was last week's, where they said that young sticks male was seen feeding on a buffalo kill.
Well, that's good then.
But I'm hoping maybe they will come back. But at this stage of the game, we are banking on the Kahumas and the Kajimas and the Kajumas. But still, fantastic sighting. And of course, I was lucky enough to have them roaring, and they had one session of mating, and then they moved closer. After roaring a little bit further, they actually came closer, mated, and then roared right in front of the vehicle, and we could hear the rest of the pride roaring just across the Whistles cut line. And I'm hoping that some of you out there managed to feel some of that power and some of I can't think of words to describe it.
It is. It's magic. There is something that moves inside you, definitely.
Different to the rumbles of an elephant. Rumbles of an elephant, when you feel that going through your body, and I believe women feel it more than men. I don't know why that is, but why go there?
Yeah, get back on track.
But I mean, that's why Katie Payne discovered. That's how she discovered elephant talking, because she was in a zoo and she heard it or felt it more than heard it. And none of the male keepers, no man had ever heard or felt this rumbling before. And so women are more susceptible to the rumblings of elephants. But it is a different sound. When elephants are rumbling, it is a completely different sound that instills a different passion or a different emotion. When lion are roaring, I've often said on drive that I don't really believe lion are the king of the jungle, because they're limited to a territory. They'll run away from a bunch of things. They're not really the overall king. The elephant is king because he doesn't have a territory. He moves wherever he wants. But the one thing that makes the lion the king is that roar. And on a still night like this, if they were to roar, even now it's not that great. I think you've got to have it in midwinter, when the bush is dry, when it is cold, and that sound travels, the air reverberates. I think if you had to have a candle burning, you'd see the flame flicker from that roar.
On me already. And maybe it's just a different frequency. Maybe that's what it just resonates.
Well, yes,
things
I think
inside
so.
of you.
I think maybe that's what it is. It all boils down to frequency. I mean, it's like whale calls and stuff. And yes, and it's how that frequency affects us, or what it instills in us. It either instills extreme spiritual oneness, like with an elephant, or awe and excitement, as in with lions. But that wasn't the end of excitement, because I know I'm just going to branch off quickly, and because my excitement continued finding those cheetah and then following them, and we missed the kill because, well, for whatever reason it was, we missed the kill because they ran off into thicker bush. And the youngster, believe it or not, it was the youngster that made the kill, and Mom came along, and they were actually sitting apart from the kill, and I think there's even a couple of moments where I'm saying, I don't believe there's a kill here, because the youngster got up and walked back towards Mom, and there was nothing. And then suddenly, after a minute or two, it turned around and it sort of went into some long grass and picked up this baby impala and pulled it into the shade, and the two of them fed quite heartily on this young impala. But I'm kicking myself. I'm cross with myself. I'm upset with myself, because I was going on and on and on about vultures stacking and about the vultures coming in, and we were facing the vultures, and I turned around to look to see where the cheetah were, and I wasn't even looking at them. I just saw them under a guarri bush, and I was still looking at vultures and talking about vultures and saying goodbye to all of you through the camera. And meanwhile, Catherine was on camera. After I said goodbye, she panned back to the cheetah, zoomed in, and at that last moment before it cut away, that young cheetah picked up a second kill that it had made. And if you go back a little bit, you actually hear me from when we were with the vultures. I was saying they're going after more impala, and then we go towards them and say, I don't think they made a kill, they're sitting in the shade. But it did exactly the same thing that it had done before. That it killed something, and it had left it at one side and moved to the side, waited for Mom to rejoin it, and then after a minute or two picked up the carcass. And it was only after reviewing footage, when we got back into final control, that I realized that they had made that second kill, and that was quite incredible. I do recall saying during my monologue about the cheetah, that youngster wouldn't, the first one that they had killed, wouldn't have maybe fed them enough for the day. They would have needed more, and I thought that they would kill maybe later that afternoon. I didn't really expect them to kill so soon.
That is amazing that they actually did. I mean, especially if they were successful with that one.
Well, it was a lamb. I mean, it was a baby, and I mean, I've often seen cheetah kills. I've had cheetahs killing right next to my vehicle. I've had them killing even lambs before, and leaving a lot of the carcass. I couldn't believe they finished that thing off, that it was only legs that were left. But even beyond that, I couldn't believe how many vultures came down for 4 little legs and the piece of the head. Of course, the vultures don't know that. When they're flying in, they're not seeing the carcass, they're seeing other vultures landing. They think, oh, party time, and they all dive in there, and they sort of arrive on the scene to find 4 impala lamb legs that aren't going to feed an ant. And there's 50 vultures that want to fight for scraps. But it was just a fantastic sequence of events that we saw the kill. Well, we didn't see the kill, but we saw the cheetah. They made the kill. We saw them feeding. The vultures came in. And that in itself is a very unusual thing, to see that sequence in such a short period of time. Because often we've seen buffalo kills or lion killing buffalo, and it takes several days for that whole that we've all been waiting for. It was a moment that we all looked forward to from the night that or the day that Tara told us that she had Karula and Yambilu Yadan mating outside the room. I mean, we've been counting the days.
We have. I think everybody has, and it's just. I mean, the fact that again we've actually been able to see the mating. I think you were there when we caught it on camera.
I saw. Yeah, with Alex.
I think it was the following day.
Just below the Gary Dam wall, and it was in infrared. We had the camera on Yambilu Yadan and Karula mating the very next day. That was probably one of the first times it's ever been broadcast live. Leopards mating in the wild. A number of firsts that we're famous for. You know, we just so great here at Wild Earth Safari. But we had a few false starts. I mean, there was that time that Lex Hess, we were on drive and Lex Hess found the den. I was even more upset because I was been with Karula the day before, I think it was.
Yeah.
And she was inspecting those dens. She was inspecting those termite mounds, and she actually went into that mound, turned around and came out, and I was wondering even cubs in there at that time. But it was only, I think, the next day or two that they saw her carrying something, and then we found her.
I think they said it was meat, but I wonder if it was a cub. I think that was what they said it was meat that she was carrying, but we kind of, I think it was the cub that she was carrying.
Well, I don't know of leopards carrying meat.
No, exactly.
They carry carcasses.
Yeah.
They take cubs to meat. There would be no reason for her to taking meat to newborn cubs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what made me think.
It must have been a
more
cub.
likely the cub, and she was moving it. So.
Yeah, as well as the fact she's not going to be taking meat back to a den where their newborn cubs
But
for hyenas.
that was the funny thing though, because remember Lex actually said that she had a carcass around the back of the den. I remember him saying that.
Ah, okay. Well, I don't know about that.
Mm.
I don't know about that.
But that
Could
was
have
what was
been.
very odd, because we couldn't believe that she actually had the carcass there with the two
Yeah.
cubs of about a week and a half old.
But then again, what was even more unusual was that the hyena den is less than 100 meters away.
Mm.
I mean, so close. But I think by that stage the hyenas had left the den already.
I think so.
You know, it's hard to think back and think of the sequence of events from then. But set us all that aside, we finally managed to get the cubs and Karula and that beautiful sight of those little spotted bundles running along the road. And
they're all poor.
They're all poor,
They're
yeah.
all
They're
poor.
going to grow into them.
Definitely. That was the thing that shook me the most. It's like, I've seen young lions that age, and they much
they're
bigger.
But
they were just poor. It was just amazing. I must admit, I just was beside myself. I think I said fantastic about 10 times in one sentence.
Well, it was indeed. I mean, yeah. It's probably a once in a lifetime moment. There's not many times that you're going to have the opportunity to see leopard cubs for the first time. I mean, we're going to see them now. I'm hoping, and I'm confident, because this is Karula's territory. I'm confident that in the next months to come, we're going to be seeing these youngsters grow up in the same way that we've seen her previous two litters. Luckily, I've been here for almost the entire 2 years of the previous litter, Induna and Mishu. I missed Saseka and Tingana, and I've only seen either one of them maybe once or twice each, if that. So I don't know those two cats. But we are now going into this new era, this new period of watching leopard cubs, and it's quite unique. It is very, very special.
Definitely.
And you're going to be heading that.
Yeah.
I'll stick to the insects and the frogs and the little things, and Tara's going to be concentrating on Karula and the cubs, and that's going to be one of our main focuses in the next few months, is to follow Karula and the cubs, and that sort of, I'm going to say soap opera, but it's not. It's a drama.
It is.
Because there's one thing that we're going to keep in mind, and a lot of us will do, and I think it's something that I don't know if I need to forewarn you. This is nature. This is wild. This is reality. We are not going to interfere. If anything happens, we cannot and we will not. And whatever happens with these cubs' lives, we just have to follow it. And there are times that we might not be able to. We're not going to talk about that. Just a brief forewarning that this is not a safari park where they're protected. This is the big, wide open Africa, and these two cubs are as vulnerable and as trying to think of another word. Vulnerable will suffice. But they are vulnerable, and the elements are harsh. So we've got
But then
an exciting
Karula is quite an
She
exceptional
is
mother.
who she is.
She
Yeah,
is.
she is who
Definitely.
she is.
So the odds are stacked in their favour in that sense, but I think that is the exciting
Very much
thing.
so, very much so. But I've been broken-hearted so many times in the past to know that that's all very well to get attached, but there is that element of surprise that can happen, and one has to not be prepared for it, but you have to accept it when it happens, that it is nature. And we've seen a few incidents in the past with elephants and stuff. Speaking of elephants, we've had some elephants back again. They're starting to come back. We had some bulls around, and they're eating marula fruits, and had the breeding herd today. So that's fun too. We're lucky to have elephants back. And of course, there was the rhino incident yesterday.
That really was absolutely amazing.
I know you're quite a fan of rhino.
I am.
Yeah, and you just happen to be here instead of out there. Well, tit for tat, paybacks are big. You got Peru and the Cubs. I got a rhino moment.
Very fair.
I wasn't too sure how Kat was handling it on the back there. I think it was intense.
Yeah.
I mean, we were smack bang in the middle of a fight of gargantuan proportions. I mean, these are giant animals. These are giant prehistoric animals. They're not tame. They might look very placid. They might look very, very relaxed when they're with us and they're walking up to the vehicle and they're all fine and they're just puffing and puffing or just grazing grass or sometimes just wallowing. But that was a reality moment. That was a moment that showed us that at the drop of a hat, at the in a split second, violence and mayhem can erupt out of the bush. And I've seen it so many times, whether it's on foot or on game drives or just sitting at a hide or sitting somewhere. And it doesn't have to be that intense as much as big rhino clashing. It could just be a raptor coming out of the sky and grabbing a weaver bird, or a simple thing of a praying mantis catching. Oh, that was another thing.
Oh,
That
yes!
frog last night. It was incredible. We were waiting for dinner. We were all sitting at the house and chatting and watching some silly sitcom, just to kill time. We're just trying to kill time. We're waiting for this oven to cook these potatoes. And what a normal oven would take 20 minutes, it takes this oven 2 hours. So we're literally sitting there twiddling our thumbs, watching a very, very uninteresting, unfunny sitcom. And just outside the big sliding glass windows is a moth, this beautiful owl moth. that and had been rescued from the house, had been gently caught and let outside again, but of course being a moth, it flew back to the light and it was flapping against the glass, wanting to come back in. And out of nowhere came this grey tree frog. I mean, we didn't even know the grey tree frog was there, but it was obviously sitting on the leg of one of the outside chairs. And this grey tree frog hit the glass and hit this moth. But now, the moth is about 3 times the size of the grey tree frog. But somehow this frog managed to just stuff those wings into its mouth. But all the time, it's stuck to the glass. But it doesn't stick that well to glass. So it's sticking to the glass and sliding down and lifts one hand to stuff moth into its mouth and slides down some more and it climbs up. And so it was a comical moment. But another moment nonetheless where something is suddenly taken and eaten. And then sometimes it doesn't really matter the scale of what it is. It doesn't really matter whether it's a frog and a moth, or a heron and a frog, or a bigger bird and a smaller bird, and going up the food chain to a lion and a buffalo. There are moments that they're exciting, they're intense, they're awesome, they are, blood curdling. And we tend to side sometimes with the predator because we have to take the step back, that we can't really be too emotional about the prey items. And I think that's what it's all about, is that sometimes things happen and
I think it's just the pure unpredictability of it.
Yeah.
That is just, and it has you on the edge of your seat. I mean, like today I was saying it was very quiet, but there's nothing to say. There was a warthog in the road. There could have been a leopard that jumped out.
Yeah.
There is nothing to say it can't happen.
I know.
And just like you sitting with a rhino, I think you were saying, was it a female? And
I thought it
that
was
the last thing on
because
your
there were the
mind.
4 and then it was the
Yeah.
5th one, and I was convinced there was a 5th. And I heard this rhino coming through the bushes behind us, couldn't see it very well. And I thought, oh, there is the 5th, maybe it's the young female. And it turned out, and I think it was shorthorn. I'm going to have to,
I think it was.
based on various different facts, I think it was shorthorn. And he kind of got the bad end of it, although he was the antagonizer there. He came off second best, and we need to try and find him again in
But
our
I
next few
think
drives.
that has been coming for a while, I think. Because there's been times where the crash has been at Buffelshoek Dam and he's been on the road and then he's deviated off, and I've thought, okay, well maybe it's the boundary between, because there's a very big male in that group.
Well, that was the one that was missing, funny enough, and I only really thought about it afterwards, after this little clash. That the rhino that was missing was actually the one with a very long horn, that long horn that just sticks off to the side. Now, often when you look at a rhino and looking at a rhino head on, you can see the 2 horns in almost perfect alignment. But for that one rhino, that one rhino bull who has got the very, very long horn, he just wasn't around today.
So I thought that's who he went for.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Well, I had this little thing that I was expecting to get some questions, because I was wondering if we would have enough to talk about.
I don't think we ever need to worry about that one, Mark.
No, perhaps not. But I will say, we're going to be closing off shortly, and I will say now, before I go, that I'm going to be on leave coming up this week. I'll be away for a little while, so I'm not going to see you behind the fire and underneath the microphone and in front of the spotlight. I will see you on Tuesday for game drive. I think it'll be Patrick, Tara tomorrow, and then Patrick, and then I'll be on drive on Tuesday. and I won't be around Fireside Chat for a little bit. But hopefully I'll go and find some interesting creatures to photograph and film while I'm away. So from myself, Mark, and
Me, Tara.
and all of us, Seb behind the camera, by the way, Mel in final control, all of us here at Wildest Safari, thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. Good luck for the coming week, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye, everyone.
Bye. The fire's going out.